All right, gamers, listen up, because this week we are diving deep into all the stuff you care about. We're talking brand new games getting announced. We've got classic titles getting like a fresh coat of paint, And there's even a piece of hardware that's going to be revealed that might just like break the bank. But there's a twist. We've also got something big that's going away in the tech world. Curious. Let's jump in.
Yeah, it's a really wild mix of news this week. Really shows how fast the gaming world changes and what gets left behind.
Okay, so first up, let's talk Xbox. Microsoft had their developer direct recently, and they had some pretty big reveals, especially if you like action games.
Oh yeah, they definitely grabbed everyone's attention. Bringing back Ninja Gaiden, that's not just them trying to like cash in on nostalgia. It's a smart move, with the way games are today.
Yeah, for sure. So Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming fall 2025.
Yeah.
Xbox, PlayStation, PC. And it's going to be on Game Pass on day one. But the real surprise, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black just dropped. Like right now as a remaster.
Oh, wow. That's a good move. Get that hype going right away for the sequel. The Ninja Gaiden games have always had this like cult following, that mix of like crazy difficulty and that really stylish combat. And just the whole dark and gritty feel. It's different.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, and there's a new main character this time, Yakumo. And they've got these two different fighting styles, Raven and Nue. Do you think that's like their way of bringing in new players? Because, the series is known for being so hard.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing for sequels and reboots,
Yeah.
How to give the fans what they love, but also keep things fresh. A new character with new moves might be just the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit. Nintendo, they just love all that retro stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, their Switch Online service. That's a really smart idea. You pay like a small amount each month, and you get access to all these classic games. It's a good deal.
Yeah, it is. And they just added 3 new games to the SNES library. Sut-Takun, Fatal Fury 2.
Yeah.
And Super Ninja Boy.
Oh, wow. Suit Hakun is the one I'm excited about. It's this puzzle action game. And it was never released outside of Japan until now. This is huge for retro gamers. It's like they found a lost treasure.
I bet. And you can't go wrong with a classic fighting game like Fatal Fury 2. Mai Shiranu, come on.
Yeah. It really shows how good games can last forever. Nostalgia is part of it. But it's more than that. It's the solid gameplay that keeps people coming back, Those old pixelated punches still hit hard.
Yeah, they do. Okay. Are you ready for this? Sony is dropping a bomb. They are ending production of recordable Blu-ray discs, mini discs, and mini DV cassettes. Remember those?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I remember those.
I had a whole collection of mini discs back in the day.
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't mean Sony is giving up on physical media completely. I mean, movies and games on discs, those are still around.
Yeah, but it's a sign of the times, right? The way we get our games and movies, it's totally different now. It's all about streaming and downloading.
Yeah. And this brings up a big question. What does this mean for you, for our listeners? What physical media are you still holding on to? And what about all of our digital libraries? What happens to them down the road? This isn't just about tech getting old. It's about how we preserve our culture in a digital world.
That's a really good point. Okay. How about something that is definitely not old? PC gamers, get ready. NVIDIA just dropped the GeForce RTX 5090 Founders Edition. It's their newest and best graphics card. But it's going to cost you.
Yeah, this thing is a monster. The specs are crazy. You're going to need a serious computer to run it, a good monitor, a powerful power supply, the whole works.
Oh, but the coolest part, they've got this DLSS 4 tech. It uses AI to make the game run better, even in games that push the 5090 to its limits. Is AI the future of gaming?
I think it's a big part of it. DLSS is like having this super smart assistant. It's always watching the game and figuring out how to make it run smoother. And it does all that without making the graphics look worse. It's about balancing power with optimization.
That's cool. So let's talk price. The 5090 is going for $2,000, and that's before you upgrade anything else you might need. Is it worth it?
Well, the price is always high when something first comes out. But don't worry, there will be cheaper versions of the 5090 later. That's usually how it works with these really good graphics cards. If you can wait, you can probably save some money.
Good advice. Okay, so let's talk about deals. Because who doesn't love a good deal? Best Buy, the Epic Game Store, and Fanatical, they've all got some good stuff going on this week.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
But first, just remember, deals change all the time. So make sure you check the show notes. We'll have all the links there.
Good point.
Okay, so first up, we've got Best Buy. They're doing up to 60% off PlayStation games, 40% off Xbox games, and a big 50% off Switch games. Plus, you can get deals on headsets, and even a discount on the MetaQuest 3S.
Wow. Sounds like a good time to stock up on games. Or maybe try out VR.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we've got the Epic Game Store. They're giving away Behind the Frame, the finest scenery for free until January 30th. It's a beautiful game with a really cool art style, like a Studio Ghibli movie. If you like heartwarming stories and pretty graphics, you should check it out.
Oh, for sure. Free is always a good price. Maybe this is a chance for people to try a game they wouldn't normally play.
Yeah, maybe. And finally, Fanatical has some really good discounts on bundles of PC games. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but you should definitely go to their website.
Yeah, you can save a lot of money with those bundles. And you can discover some new games, too.
For sure.
Just remember, these deals don't last forever. You got to be quick in the digital world.
That's the truth. So we've talked about new games, old games, and all the ways we get our games. It's crazy how fast things change.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, it makes you wonder, what will gaming look like in 5 years or 10 years? Will we still be chasing the best graphics card? Or will something completely new come along?
It's hard to even imagine. Technology changes so fast.
It really does.
But hey, if you have any predictions, we'd love to hear them. You can leave us a comment or send us an email and tell us about your favorite gaming moments. Let's keep this conversation going.
Let's hear it. Yeah, it really is amazing to think how much has changed, even in just the last few years. The way we buy games, the way we play games, even just how we think about games. It's all changing so fast.
I know, right? Remember when physical media was everything? Now it's all digital downloads and streaming. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's kind of both. This whole thing with Sony and those recordable formats, it really makes you think.
It does. Makes you wonder.
Right.
What happens to all our digital stuff in the long run? What if those streaming services go away or they change their format or something? Do we really own any of those games and movies we bought digitally?
That's a good question. It's like we're just renting them, not really owning them.
Yeah, it's a weird thought.
Okay, so let's get back to that Ninja Gaiden news for a minute. What do you think about them adding a new main character? Is that a risky move for the series? Or is it a good way to make it feel new again?
I think it's a risk, but it could be a good risk. Ninja Gaiden has a lot of fans, but it's also known for being really hard. So maybe this new character, Yakumo, with their different fighting styles, maybe that's a way to get new people into the series without making the old fans mad.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how those new fighting styles work. Raven and Nue, will they be easier for new players to learn, or will they be just as hard as the old moves?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Right.
The developers have said they're keeping the old moves too.
Yeah.
And that same dark and gritty style, so it seems like they're trying to find a balance.
I hope they can pull it off. It's hard to change a series without messing it up.
Yeah, it is. But both Team Ninja and Platinum Games, they made some really great action games in the past, so I'm optimistic.
Me too. It's interesting how gaming is kind of doing both things right now. It's bringing back old series like Ninja Gaiden and Fatal Fury, but it's also pushing technology forward with stuff like the RTX 5090.
Yeah, it's like this tug of war between nostalgia and innovation. And it seems like the industry is trying to do both.
Yeah. And speaking of the past, those new games on Nintendo Switch Online, that's a great example of how popular retro gaming still is. Have you tried Super Ninja Boy yet?
Not yet. But I remember playing it back in the day. It's a fun little action RPG with real-time combat and random encounters, like a simpler Final Fantasy, but with ninjas.
Cool. And for a few bucks a month, you get access to a whole bunch of SNES games.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It shows that people still love those older games.
Yeah.
Even though they're decades old, they still hold up. There's something timeless about those old games. The gameplay, the pixel art.
Totally. It reminds you that gaming isn't just about the newest technology or the best graphics. It's about having fun. And the challenge.
Yeah.
And the connection you feel to the games and the characters.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to our earlier conversation about the future of gaming. What do you think, listener? Will we still be playing these same types of games in 10 years, just with better graphics? Or will something totally new come along and change everything?
It's hard to even imagine.
I know. Technology is moving so fast.
Yeah. What if VR gets so good and so cheap that everyone starts playing that way?
Yeah. Or what about augmented reality? Imagine if games could blend the real world and the digital world.
Whoa. That would be wild.
It would.
It's impossible to predict.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so exciting.
Exactly.
It feels like we're at the beginning of something new in gaming.
We are.
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
But for now, I think it's safe to say that this is a great time to be a gamer.
It is.
We've got so many great games to choose from.
We do.
From old classics to brand new stuff.
And don't forget about all the deals. There are so many ways to save money on games these days.
Yeah. Speaking of deals, we haven't talked much about those fanatical bundles. Those are a good way to get a lot of games for cheap.
They are. You can save a ton of money with those bundles.
Yeah.
And it's a fun way to find new games you might not have heard of before.
Yeah. It's like a mystery box.
It is.
You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
Okay. Before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, this idea of preserving our culture in the digital age. It's a really important topic, especially with Sony stopping production of those physical media formats.
It is. As we move more and more towards streaming and digital downloads, we have to think about what that means for our culture. Like what happens to all our games and movies and music if those platforms go away or if we can't access them anymore.
Yeah. It's almost like we don't really own anything anymore. It's kind of scary.
It is. It makes you wonder. What will people in the future be able to experience? Will they be able to play the games we grew up with? Or will those games be lost forever? It's something to think about. We need to find ways to preserve these digital things, just like we preserve physical things in museums and libraries.
That's a good point. It's a balancing act, isn't it? We want to embrace the future and all the cool new technology, but we also want to remember the past and make sure those experiences aren't forgotten.
Exactly.
It's about keeping the spirit of gaming alive for us and for the people who come after us.
Well said. It really makes you think about those old games and movies we still have, you know?
Yeah.
Like on actual discs and cartridges and stuff. They're not just things. They're like pieces of history.
Yeah. And you know what? It's nice to know that we can keep those things safe. Like with digital stuff, it feels like we don't have as much control.
Exactly.
So what can we do about it? How can we make sure the games that are important to us don't just disappear?
Well, for one thing, we can support those places that are trying to preserve digital stuff, like museums and libraries, and those special projects that are archiving old games and things.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And we can also try to share our favorite games with other people, like show our kids the games we grew up with.
Yeah.
Or just talk about the games that were important to us.
Right. Sharing those memories is so important. And hey, maybe it's time for us to dust off those old consoles ourselves. You know, get those old cartridges out and play those classic games again.
That's a great idea.
A good way to connect with the past and see how far gaming has come.
Speaking of classic games, those fanatical bundles you mentioned, those are a great way to find some hidden gems.
They are.
I love the surprise. You never know what you're going to find.
I know. It's like a time capsule of gaming history.
Exactly.
You can get some amazing deals on those bundles. And it's a fun way to try out different kinds of games.
Yeah. And it's a good way to support those older developers and publishers.
It is. It's about keeping those games alive so new people can enjoy them.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into gaming, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I'd say appreciate the games that have been important to you, whether they're old or new, and don't take those experiences for granted.
I like that.
Gaming is more than just a hobby. It's a way to tell stories and create worlds and make memories.
And those memories are important.
They are.
Share them with other people.
Yes.
Play those classic games.
Yeah.
And support the people who are trying to preserve our gaming history.
It's all about keeping the spirit of gaming alive.
Well said.
For us and for everyone who comes after us.
So until next time, keep on gaming.
Keep on exploring.
And keep those memories alive.
See you next time.